Anywhere you go, you belong. Anywhere you say, anywhere.
I mean, I think there's lots of really good things that are going to come out of that. I think tapping into like people who are creatives but maybe not necessarily designers by trade is a very good way of like thinking outside the box and getting like completely different designs than you would get from a traditional designer. But I also think it's a really nice way of telling different stories of the people who are in the sneaker world, because some people, I always say there's so many levels to being a sneakerhead, and like some people just like looking at sneakers but they don't even collect them. Some people are like avid collectors. Some people, like, I think what I noticed in my group of people that did the Nike Culture Major program was that there was like DJs, there was artists, and everyone liked sneakers, but it was all different levels. And I think it was really nice that they told so many different stories. And I think right now we're in a time where, especially with like the female sneaker community, like there's a lot of like gatekeeping, and like you have to be this certain stereotype to be a sneakerhead or to be like in the community, whereas like that was a really nice way of telling stories of like people who that you don't necessarily have to be like this certain way or certain stereotype to enjoy sneakers. So yeah, I think it was nice to have that representation, and overall I think it's also just great to show that everyone that was in that program was pretty much not a nobody, but we were all just like regular people. Like we're not like famous designers or like famous athletes or whatever. We're just like anyone else who was like watching the program happen. So it's I think it's just like a nice like inspiration to younger people who want to get into the industry as well, to know that like you don't have to be like from a certain background or whatever. Like anyone has a chance at doing it. So yeah. I think the biggest one, or the biggest frustration for me, which I've spoken about at great length, which most people will know, is the size runs, because I have a really small shoe size and there's so many pairs that I miss out on. Not even like current pairs, but like I have a real obsession with like vintage runners. Like for example, like the BW Persian Violet is like a shoe which is supposed to be coming out this year, but as a retro, but like the old school versions I just can't get a hold of in my size, and it's like they only ever came in men's sizes, I think. So it's there's like that kind of side of things is just really frustrating. And I think in particular, like last year, there was a whole thing about the Off-White sneakers that came out. So they had, first of all, the Jordan 4 Sale, which was a women's exclusive. And because there was such demand from the male community, they had decided to extend the sizes to men. Whereas then a couple months later, the Jordan 5 Sale came out, and it was a men's shoe, and women really wanted it, but they never did the same for women. They never like extended the sizes. So like so many people missed out, and it was like, there's still that sort of unfair kind of inequality, I think, as far as sizing. But also it comes down to like the industry itself. Like I think brands need to work on the whole sizing issue, because they know now, I think up until very recently, maybe like in the last year or so, they didn't quite realize how much of an audience or like consumer there is for those sizes. But I think now they need to start like figuring out ways, because obviously it's not as simple as just like adding new sizes. Like they have to consider like foot shapes and everything, like profits and all that stuff, which I guess I don't understand because I'm not on brand side, but I feel like there's a challenge there that they need to like sort of face up to and really like change things from that perspective. But also I think retailers and media kind of have like a responsibility as well when they come to do like sneaker launches or I don't know, like storytelling. Like they need to be representing women and not just like one type of women as well. I think like the hype bae kind of girl is like the only girl that gets represented, whereas like there's like so many different stories to tell, and like of people of all ages, all backgrounds. So yeah, I think there's a little bit of a way to go, but ultimately I think it's representation and just like including women as much as possible. Yeah. I think it's already very much underway, or like I'm hoping that more brands are thinking about this. Obviously, Nike have got their Move to Zero campaign that they are like pushing for right now. It's so important because I think as well, like as sneakerheads, like we collect so many, like we buy so many sneakers, and I think there's like a split. So like for me, I personally only buy sneakers that I know I'm going to have forever and that I just love. And like once I've stopped wearing them, I'm just going to keep them as like a special sort of like souvenir, I guess. But that there's a type of consumer that like the type of consumer that will buy like a pair of Air Force Ones, for example, and like wear them until they're like completely beat up and not take care of them and then throw them out. And ultimately, I think it comes from education. I think people still don't really know like the effects that like this has on the environment, and like how there's like lots of different ways that you can like prolong the life of your sneakers, like even just through cleaning them. And like for example, I work with a brand called Liquidproof, which are like really, they have like eco-friendly cleaning solutions and like protectors and like nourishers for your leather and your suedes and everything. And it's just things like that like I think a lot of the wider public don't really know about these things. They don't really know how to take care of their stuff. So yeah, I think more education in that space. There's some really cool influencers. Okay, so I think yeah, like it was more the shoe was more around just like celebrating female sneaker culture, I think. And what my story behind the shoe was that I wanted it to be a shoe that was designed by a woman but for everyone. So that was like my main goal with it, because I just thought like size inclusivity is something that I guess if like a guy was to design a shoe, they might not think about. That's not, I don't want to assume that, but like I just wanted to like show that like a shoe that I designed could be worn by like all genders, and like that's something that I face as a frustration myself. As far as like working for example, like my role that I work in at Lace, like I work with an all male team, and I'm very lucky to actually have never really faced with that team in particular. Like they're all like so supportive, and I think I also just want to shout out like all the men who are in the sneaker space who are like championing women, because there are so many of them who are like have our backs and they're like, yes, yeah, like we want this for you guys as well, like we want inclusivity across the board and everything. So like there's a lot of men that like credit where credit is due. Like it's like really good to have that. Yeah, I think the only like real like male negativity I kind of face in this space is like from like uninformed people in like comments, like trolls and stuff. And like for example, when we had like a high snobiety article that went live a couple of weeks ago, and that like kicked off basically, and there was a lot of like male commenters just being like, just saying like the usual stuff that they just don't understand. It's like they say the same things all the time, like, oh, like you can buy children's shoes, so why are you complaining, it's cheaper and stuff like that. And it's like they just don't get it. And it's sort of like a tedious, like tiring thing. Like I just don't respond to them because I'm like, I can't be bothered, like I don't want to like entertain that in my headspace. But other than that, I'm like very lucky to work, like the fact that I work in like a very male dominated space, I've been very lucky to only really work with like really supportive guys. And I guess, I don't know if it's part of me because I just like don't entertain that in my mind space. Like if someone's being like a dick, I'm just like, I just don't even notice it because I've got bigger things to worry about. But yeah, so this is the shoe actually here. Yeah, I think as well, like another thing that I did on the tongue, I wrote spirit and drive on each shoe, because I think spirit and drive are like the two qualities that got me to like where I am in this space right now. And yeah, I think you just need to like have a bit of a tunnel vision and just like keep going, like keep enjoying your passion regardless of like the obstacles that you face. But yeah, this was just like a celebration of that basically. And like, yeah, I hoped that it would like kick off a bit of a conversation with like females in this space, and yeah, just celebrate. Like part of my campaign, I like had like some of my favorite girls in the community come on like an IGTV, and I just like wanted to like showcase them. And yeah, I just wanted it to be a big celebration of us, I guess. I think as far as brands like brands that I buy into, one that I really love is Pangea, which is all like sustainable as well, and it's basically like very like the men's and like it's men's, women's, and kids, but like everything looks the same. It's just like colorful sweatpants and like hoodies, but like they're just like really nice quality, and yeah, completely genderless, to be honest. So yeah, that's clothing wise, I would say that. And then I think like credit needs to be given to Yeezy, because I've noticed like that kind of goes under the radar, but like where Nike will have, as much as I'm like, as you can see, a Nike girl, like over Yeezy, but where Nike will have like specific size sets for like different shoes, like Yeezy create every size for every single one of their silhouettes, which I think is like a really like amazing thing to do. And yeah, that's where I feel like Nike should be going, in that direction. Like if Yeezy can do it, then I hope that they can too. So yeah, I think for footwear that would be the one. And then obviously, yeah, platforms like that are starting to champion these things. I think 𝐸𝐿 is a great example of that, actually. Like you guys spoke to them. But yeah, just like talking like sort of campaigning for inclusivity in the industry as well. But yeah, I think, yeah, I'm trying to think if I can think of any more. Like I guess Stussy and Carhartt are also really good ones, because even though they do have some women's products, it's like very much like you can just like wear whatever you want basically, and their women's products are often like quite masculine, I guess, or like what's the word, androgynous, so it's not like feminine or like shrink it, pink it kind of vibes. So yeah.